Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in this session of speaking webinars on predicting the future and staying prepared. Today, we have with us Mr. Nakul Shenoy. Mr. Nakul Shenoy is an acclaimed real life mentalist and a corporate speaker for Bangalore. He is the author of the best selling book, Smart Course in Magic. He's also a communication scientist, a design consultant with patents, a user researcher, and a critical thinker. He has a massive global following for his high impact mind reading performances. Thank you, Mr. Shenoy, for joining us. And I'll leave the floor open to you for your session.
Thank you, Nijanj. Thank you very much. That was a kind introduction. Good evening, everybody. The title of the is Predicting the Future. Well, that's a good magic trick that's been pulled on all of you. Because if anything, nobody was able to predict the kind of predicament we are all living in right now. Well, as a magician, mind reader, mentalist, it didn't change anything for me too. As in, it was not different for me than anybody else. Overnight, all of us were locked into our houses, and no matter what was on our plate, for most of the entertainers, that went out of the window. But then I figured that there was some commonality between what and how magicians around the world were impacted and everybody else, especially those in the corporate side of things. And so I'm going to talk a bit about what are the similarities and also perhaps show you a few things to put this across nicely. Before I start with anything else, I want to establish that this frame that you're seeing right now is what we are going to work with. Let me explain why. If I sort of bring a silk in here, and if I sort of push that into my wrist, and I do that, and I bring that closer, and I sort of open it, ideally, I would hear a wow from the other side. Well, webinar mode, I'm hoping all of you are clapping away or raising your hands or something like that. That's one of the first things that's very, very different. But like I said, I want to be very open with you right at the start. What did I just do? Well, I cheated. What I did was I just dropped this piece of cloth as soon as it went into my hand. And the hand went slightly out of frame like this. It was just dropped off down like that, and the hand came back. And then the hand came here, and it showed you that, well, that was magic. But I want to assure you that what you're seeing right now, this frame, and what you're seeing, everything will be within that frame. I will not use anything outside of this. Let me explain why. Because if I really wanted to take a cloth like this, and if I wanted to push that into my wrist and want to vanish it, that would be easy enough for me to do. I do not need to go out of frame to do that. Yeah. So now that we have established that primary rule, let's get off. One of the first things I realized and why I did that was people had a problem with trust. A lot of us started overnight working from our homes, especially those in the software world. And that meant that, okay, we are all in our houses, but then is there enough visibility? This person online disappears for 10 minutes. People start wondering, where did he go? What is he doing? Where is she? Things like that. And so what became very important is the element of building trust. And that is what I want to get rid of right at the front. It's very difficult, I know, to trust somebody who calls themselves a magician or a mind reader. But trust me, we're going to have some fun together. Well, and now that we have established that trust, let me sort of tell you a quick story in terms of how I got into magic. When I was a very small kid, I had gone to see this magician, a magic show. A magician was on stage. So this was like what? I was around 5 years of age. And this magician walks on stage, and I'm in the audience. And this magician shows that he has one, two, three, four, five, and six cards. And from those six cards, the magician takes one, two, three cards, throws them away, and a moment later shows that he has one, two, three, four, five, and six cards. Well, I don't know about you, but I clapped. Well, normally when I do this on stage, people clap at this point. And that is the most weird thing of what happened afterwards. Because with this whole situation we are in, while we are always connected through the interwaves, we are also not really connected. Every form of connection that we have brought with it its own limitation. Like in this particular thing, I am sure you are all jumping around in joy in what you just saw, or at least that's the utopia I would like to imagine. But that is also something that plagues the corporate world: connectivity. How do we stay connected in this whole modern, ultra modern, sudden need of always having to be working from wherever we are? We've always done work from home, but this was a different situation because work from home was the exception. And now this is the norm. There's no other way. And so the element of having to bridge this, not just the digital connect, but the digital gap that causes when we are talking through a screen like this, suddenly became apparent, not just to magicians, but to everybody, no matter what it is that they're doing. Housewives were ordering, or all of us, not just housewives, right? All of us were suddenly ordering everything that we could through WhatsApp messages or SMSs or phone calls or whatever that is. There was no way of actually going to the next door neighborhood shop. But going back to my story, this magician, why he impressed me so much when I was 5 years of age was he didn't do this once, because then perhaps it wouldn't have been so fantastic. He did this many, many times. Each time he showed he had one, two, three, four, five, and six cards. And from those six cards, he took out one, two, three cards, threw them away, and still showed he had one, two, three, four, five, and six cards. Now, this is a long story because when I was that kid, I actually went up on stage and I caught the magician afterwards because I was tired of clapping and clapping and clapping. And so I went and caught the magician and I said, "Uncle, I want to learn that magic trick." He said, "Which one?" Because he had done a lot of magic. And I said, "That one in which you show your one, two, three, four, five, and six cards. And from those six cards, you throw away as many times one, two, three cards and still show you have one, two, three, four, five, and six cards." He said he was a magician, so he couldn't teach me that magic. It's normally a long story, but I'll cut it right here because that's not the topic of today. But the long story short, he did not teach me that magic. So my friends, thanks for that, watching me there, because even today, I do not know that magic. You know which one? Where they show one, two, three, four, five, and six cards, and they throw three and still show six. I don't know that magic. But if I did, and because you're such a nice silent audience, I would have taken out one, two, three, four, five, six cards, thrown them out, and still shown one, two, three, four, five, and six cards. But like I said, I don't know that magic. So let me get on with my talk. The problem then was, in addition to trust and the connect aspects, was that we were all, no matter which part of the world or what kind of a vocation we were in, we were taught completely unprepared. Till a few days back, when I did these talks for my corporate clients, it basically was me standing in front of my laptop, as I am doing right now, fully dressed, standing in front of the laptop and talking and performing. But over this last 1 week, I have been able to embellish my stage at home with a couple of extra lights that are here now. And I'm connected to the TV so I can read your comments that are coming in and things like that. But seriously, we were caught in this world where no matter what it was, we only had what we already did. And luckily for me, I had a table that could come up, and I had a screen that could connect to Zoom or whatever else was required to connect. And so I thought, why not explain to the world what mystery is? And so that's what I'm going to try to do to you now. I'm going to try explaining what is mystery and how that's good, bad, or somewhere in between through this medium. Let's try this. So first things first, I didn't have a stage, right? Normally you're on a stage. So I'm a tea lover. So I had one of these tea boxes at home. So I said, oh, okay, I can use this. The height was a little less. So I said, okay, I have a loads of books. So I could just get one book here and I could keep it like this. And that became my stage. Now, once I have my stage like this, I could then introduce objects that I wanted to talk about or perform with and show you the most impossible mysteries that ever existed. Let me explain. I have a matchbox and I have a needle on with a ribbon running through it, and a matchbox. Why do I have a matchbox? Well, in magic, we always say that magic is about using science and disproving science. So for example, everybody, scientists included, know mostly a solid cannot pass through another solid. Well, there are exceptions. For example, if one of the solids is something like a matchbox, which is made of paper or card, and the other object is a very sharp needle, you could take this and you could push that right through the matchbox like that. Now, is that mystery? Is that magical? No. Because, well, you will say, oh, I can also do this because I can take a needle and a matchbox, which I have at home, and if not ribbons, perhaps some thread, and I could make that go right through this matchbox. And so, Nakul, that is not magic. Why are you showing this to us? Well, you're right, that is not magic. But if you imagine that this box here was something on stage, a large box on stage, and this needle was a really big needle, and you had made a lady walk inside this box, and the lady could only fit this box. This needle go right through it. And that would essentially have been a lot very, very, very special. Let me just ensure I can try that again. So now that you have imagined that there is a lady that's walked in inside this box, or a person, and there's not much space on that. And now if in your mind you imagine this to be on stage, and now that we've made a hole, it's much more easier. You can make this needle go right through, and imagine again, there's no space for this person inside that box. And so the needle has to go through them. And that is what sort of makes it mysterious. Again, imagination is good, and we need a lot of imagination and creativity with what we are going through right now. But with also what we're going through right now, we are missing out a lot of things. For example, when I normally do this, it's close to you. as close to you like this. But what I normally then expect is the person in front of me reaching over and picking this matchbox. The reason I'm missing that most is if you had done that, a sudden realization would have happened. And the realization would have been that that seems much more heavier than a normal matchbox. And so you would have sort of opened it. And when you open it, you would have found that inside it, you would have a solid block of brass. Um, like, okay, so this is again, let me adjust the lights a bit. And yeah, so a solid block of brass through which clearly the needle went through. And that is what makes it mystery. Well, so magicians supposedly then can do the impossible. And if we can do the impossible, what was wrong this time? Why was it so difficult for magicians to sort of understand what was happening and sort of prepare for it? Let me answer that with a favorite example of mine. I believe that magicians are normally much more intelligent, if I may use the word, or far thinking than a chess player. I'll tell you why. Normally, it's said a chess player thinks of one or two or three moves ahead. Well, a magician always thinks at least three moves ahead. And so it's quite surprising that despite us being in a craft that's known to be more than 5,000 years old, we were completely not prepared and not predicted for something like this. And the reason for that could be that most of the times we introduce something like this. We say, hi, I have a small red box here. Yeah. And inside that red box, if I open the red box, I have a smaller black box. And if I open the black box, inside of it, I have, let me get the lights. Yes. A small red ball. And this red ball that's here does all the magic, because the point of the red ball is that makes the black boxes smaller than these larger red boxes. You don't believe me? Watch this, because I can take the red box and now I can take this red box and I can make it go inside the black box. And so now the black box is larger than the smaller red box. Well, when I do this in real and people say, yes, Nakul, I sort of understand that, but you said that the magic is done by this red ball. That's outside. And if that's outside, how come this worked? Like I said, magicians always have a backup most of the times. If you sort of look inside, you normally have a backup. Well, it might be a different color, but I have a blue which is in addition to the red one. And now, just to ensure, to remind you that you remember that we started with a small black box, which was inside a larger red box. Yeah, and inside of that black box, smaller black box, was this red ball. And now you will go, yes, Nakul, we understand that, but how did that work again? Well, you guys are not listening, are you? Because, like I said, inside the red box is a smaller black box, and inside of that smaller black box is a yellow ball. And that's what I mean, that a magician always has at least three backups. Yeah. And still, with these, you take one box and then you take the other and you close, and now you may realize that these boxes are actually exactly the same, which is fine because, like I said, it's this ball, the magic ball, the red one, that makes the magic happen. Well, if we are always three steps ahead of this, then what happened? Why did we still get taken for a ride? Well, it's simple. It's There are always things that can't be explained. For example, like we had a blue ball and a yellow ball that appeared inside these as backup. Similarly, the problem was that this ball that is here, the red one, the magical one, is so large in normal life that it wouldn't just fit into any of these. And like we are not prepared to put this large red ball into any of these boxes, that's how the whole COVID situation took us, because really we were completely unprepared. But what that then meant is a lot of us got on and used a bit of creativity and tried to figure how can we make magic or mind reading or mystery work through the screen. And what you are experiencing right now along the talk is a bit of that, is how can we take the situation that we are in, the adversity that is coming towards us, and use that creatively to create something new. And isn't that the most wonderful adage that exists, that adversity is the mother of all inventions? And so I think newer challenges always helps us, because with every new challenge, we come up with something different. Um, but one of the things we should always remember as we are going through the phase that we are is to find and connect to a passion. For me, it's this. To me, it's of course it's tea and it's magic. So we should figure what, and of course books. So what is it? One of those, or one of the hundreds of things out there that is your passion. Connect to that passion, because that passion will help you right now get over any kind of adversity that comes your way. Most importantly, if you do not have a passion that you completely believe in, look at the different pastimes or hobbies that you have and see if you can convert one of them into a real passion. If not, pick one, pick a hobby, make a new hobby, and give it enough time and energy and mind space that helps you hold that as a passion. Because the moment it becomes a passion, it helps you get over anything. Now, thanks for listening to all those. But the primary thing here is also that as we get along all this, we have perseverance, right? Because every day the kind of news we are getting is sort of getting badder and badder. While there is a lot of good things out there, the numbers are increasing and things like that. So yes, so in that sense, a passion helps you take your mind off all these things. Go away from social media for a while. Go away from TV news for a while. Get into your head into a book, a fiction, or any such thing. Pick anything, any kind of a hobby. During my days, there was people used to collect coins and things like that, stamps. We don't write letters anymore. Collecting is really rare nowadays. But one of the primary things to remember in all this is, if we can work on developing a trust with our own circles and continue having a connect. So I was talking to a team of salespeople recently, and they were like, Nakul, what do we do? Because we are all locked up in our houses. The stores that we sell to, the distributors that we sell to are shut. The stores that the distributors sell to are shut. The housewives that buy our products are not buying anything right now. So how do we, in this kind of a situation, feel good about anything? Because we are very unclear as to what the future holds. Well, there is no real answer. There is no real silver bullet answer to this. But my explanation to them was exactly this. Develop a level of trust with your circles. For them, it was their distributors and their sales circles, and develop a continued connect. Not about your business, not about sales on a generic level. Try and convert some of these into friendships, into real life connections, and not only about business. Um, like what Speakin is doing here. They're doing this wonderful series of seminars with industry experts at almost throwaway rates. And the whole thing is to build this connect with you and have a long-term relationship with all of you. And that was exactly what I was telling the sales guys. And telling them, build a passion, connect, find something outside of your immediate circle of work that connects to what you want, connects to your likes and dislikes, music, movies, whatever that is. Find a connect. And once you have done that, it will be very, very easy for you to persevere, to continue, to stay connected and do what it is that requires to overcome all the hurdles that come our way. With that, let me try something with these hurdles that we have. If I can ask all of you to, in your mind, actually, all of you, you're seated, I'm hoping. And I'm hoping you're not driving. It's not really safe to be out there. If you're seated and if you can, sit down comfortably, both feet flat to the floor, sit comfortably, enjoy that sitting. And I want you for a minute to close your eyes. I want you to close your eyes and take a deep breath. Don't worry, I am not hypnotizing you. I am a hypnotist, but I'm not hypnotizing you. I just want you to take a deep breath, hold it, and let go. Take another deep breath, hold it, let go. Now continue breathing like this for the rest of your life. But what I want you to do is this: in your mind's eye, with your eye closed, I want you to imagine you are seated next to a window. You're seated next to a window, and in your mind, you are looking out this window. Out of this window, out there on the street or the fields, you can see something. You can see something. I want you to imagine that in your mind, this object that you're seeing out there. Good. Now, near that, there is another object. I want you to concentrate and get that second object also in your mind. Now, like I said, most of these things make it very, very, very difficult. But you can open your eyes. You can open your eyes. Thank you so much. I'm hoping the couple of long breaths helped you with a bit of relaxation. But you have a couple of objects in mind. I was actually projecting here. I was projecting something very simple. Okay, so the point here is, if you got even one of these, actually, let's take it a step forward. In your mind, hold on to those two thoughts, but in your mind, I want you to think of now a simple geometric image, like a square, but not a square. A simple geometric image in your mind right now. Just think of it. Hold on to that. I want you now to think of a second geometric image sort of around the first one. So they are together, one inside the other. Hold on to that thought. So I was trying to project to you when I asked you to look out the window of your mind, I was trying to project a tree and a car. If you got even one of these, I'm sure a lot of you got both, but if you got even one of these, I want you to send in messages back to Speakin and tell them that you got this right. And remember that complex image you have in mind right now? Okay. It was started as a simple image, but again, this is very difficult through this medium. But, well, we have to overcome the hurdle syndrome. So let's try this. What I was trying to project at you was two things, one inside the other. I was trying to project a circle with a triangle inside it. Some of you might have got this exactly the opposite. But again, if you got even one of this right out of the hundreds of geometric images that exist and of the millions of things you could have thought of by looking out of your window, if you got even one of these, send in messages back to Speaking. And well, what can I say? Stay passionate and overcome all hurdles. It was fun talking to you today, and hopefully we'll catch up soon. The mantra is stay home and make magic. We all will make magic in our own ways. So thank you and have a great day. I think we can have a few questions after this. At least that's what Nijansh told me. So I'm going to be around. So I can see a lot of messages saying we got both, and somebody got a triangle and circle. Fantastic that was. Nijansh, did you get all of them?
Yeah, sure. I got
You didn't try. I can see you didn't try. You
Yeah,
didn't trust me.
I was looking at the answers. So
That's okay. Thank you so much. That was fun. I'm hoping people who are seeing this are enjoying this and had something out of it. And looking forward to see some more comments here. And Nijansh, do you have any questions for me?
yeah, so we are getting questions from people. So one attendee is asking, he says this is extremely entertaining. How long does it take you to master a trick, and how much practice does it require?
Interesting question. Very, very good question. Nijansh plugged my book earlier, and I have that right here. So if by tricks you mean magic, this book, Smart Course in Magic, will teach you not just tricks, but also how to perform them. And that's what I would like you to focus on. For example, how long does the effect take for somebody? Look at it like swimming or like anything else. It might take you, like, for example, I have this coin here, and if I want to take this coin away and I want to make you believe that this coin has just vanished, it might take me a few days to get the mechanics right. To understand that I could take the coin like this and look at it and then just stare at it, and I could make that coin disappear. Now, while that happens, it is very, very important that it's not just that mechanics of taking the coin and looking at it and vanishing it, but it's also so much more about the thinking and the continued practice and the rehearsals that go into making it believable for the audience. So that whole thing I started with, the element of trust, is what's the most important thing. As a hypnotist, I can also say that I can hypnotize people through the screens, or I can hypnotize them when they are in front of me. But both the places, what matters is the trust. If they think I can do it, I can do it. If they think I can't, I can't. Yeah, it's similar with everything else in life. If we look at a challenge and we say, hey, I can do this, it's very easy to do that. And so that's going to be my long answer to that. Basically, again, I repeat, it's like swimming. You might learn the strokes, right? You might first learn how to stay afloat in a week. You might learn a particular stroke like a freestyle and something as a week progresses. In a couple of months, you might learn all the strokes that exist. But the big difference between somebody knowing how to stay afloat and sort of do a lap or a length versus those people who can stay in water and like, they are like born in water. So to be a good performer, and sadly with magic, you can't be a bad performer. You have to be that. You have to be a good swimmer and not just stay afloat.
Thank you for the answer. Another attendee is asking, so how much time do you invest in your craft daily? What is your daily routine?
Difficult answer. Again, it's once you have picked up a certain skill or reached a particular level, your daily practice on those elements reduces, but your input and your time spent on creativity and a lot of other things increases. So it's pretty much a full-time gig in that sense. You're mostly in books, you're in magic books, or you're in psychology books, or you are in generally any kind of books, or even sometimes movies and TV series. I love watching TV series like The Mentalist, Patrick Jane, or even Sherlock Holmes, because there are a lot of inspiration you can draw from all those. I love watching a lot of science, reading science fiction and watching a lot of science related shows, because those link back to any act that I want to perform. So like I said, if you learn how to vanish something, that's just the trick. But to make magic, there is a lot more investment that comes in building a story around it, in bringing a presentation to it. And like today, how we colluded, Speakin and me, was this whole thing of how we will pitch this as a talk, while it is actually a show, but it also delivers some messages. So that is enabled only because of this continued learning that goes into it. How many hours, if you really put a gun to my head, perhaps 4 to 5 at least of concentrated effort every day. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nijanj.
So, one attendees saying, "Hello, Mr. Shenoy. How are you dealing with this COVID situation and keeping yourself calm?"
This is exactly what I would love if you tell me their names, Nijanj, if that's possible. Do you know the name of?
They haven't put their names. So.
Okay. So, yeah. So, one of the things I did was connect. The moment the lockdown hit, I started. I built a small group for Indian performers, Indian magicians, and started interviewing my friends, the top performers from around the world, on a daily basis. So I ran about 33 interviews by last count. And these are the gods. These are really the gods of the field. And that is what kept me going, because every day I was preparing for this next interview. While these are friends, you still wanted to do justice to the questions you're asking them. And with that, this group, which was like 10 people when we started, in a month went up to 650. So yes, it's that larger kind with the people, and helping build the community is what that has kept me going till now, till a couple of weeks back. Since the last couple of weeks, it has been a lot of online sessions like this, shows for corporates. I did a couple of very interesting shows, where one of them was a very unique thing of actually getting a certain set of items sent. And this will only work for people in Bangalore, of course, because we are in Bangalore. So and this was for the founders of various companies, so around 50 different founders from different companies. Each of them were sent a very special box. And so they opened this box as when in the show with me, and they experienced something that has blown their minds. At some point, perhaps I'll do a public event with that. But yeah, so that again took almost 3 weeks of preparation from zero to coming to that show and actually doing that show. So it's creativity in that sense, just taking my mind off all that's happening, and every now and then going on Twitter and letting the steam off, because I am a Twitterati, and so I believe that we all have to be vocal about the situation. While we have done a phenomenal job, now is the time not to step back. Now is when the real problem hits us. And so I think it's very, very important for all of us to be vocal about it.
All right, that's a great answer. So, one question which I wanted to ask. So you said about connecting with your passion, and you mentioned some hobbies people have, like collecting stamps or coins. So how do you make your passion something which is useful for everyone else, like you did with your craft? So how do you?
That's a fantastic question, Anijanj. I believe. I'm hoping it is not my internet that's acting up. Okay, so I am okay. So I believe that it does not matter what your passion. I believe it does not matter what is that hobby. it will contribute to whatever it is that you do. Let me try explaining a bit. My passion ever since I was born, or my calling in that sense, has been magic. I always wanted to be Mandrake the Magician right from age 5. And this is a journey as I see it to be this comic character, the first superhero of the world, Mandrake the Magician. And as I got along and got into communication school, like you said, I did my master's in communication, I got into user experience, and even now I consult for top companies in user experience. Um, I suddenly found that there is a lot of commonality between the craft of magic and the way a magician thinks, and so surprising user experience, which is all about designing things. Because as a magician, I know, or even as a mind reader, I know how to exactly influence a thought in somebody's mind. I know how, when I say something or when I do something with my hands, how that plants a thought in people's minds. And so when I am a user researcher for a company and I'm interviewing a user on the other side, I know what not to do. I know how not to have researcher bias coming in. I really understand very clearly what researcher bias is, perhaps better than most researchers do. And so it's not about a hobby. It's not about what the hobby is. I have friends who have music as a hobby, and what they do has supposedly no connection to music. But you see that because there is a lot of regime that goes into music, right? There is a lot of effort, a lot of practice, a lot of discipline that goes into being a musician, and that then shows in whatever else it is that they are doing. So it might be that he's a software engineer by day and a musician just by hobby in the evening. But you see that somebody who is so deep into music, you see that in their work, how good their work is. You see a lot of creativity seeping in, etc. And well, if your passion is something like mine, which is books, well, that helps you in every single thing you do, every single thing. And so, yeah, don't worry about how it's going to be useful. Trust me on it. It will be useful whether you know it or not.
Thank you so much. That was a fantastic answer. Uh, Abhay wants to know, is there a difference between a mentalist and a magician?
Is this Abhay Naran? Because there's also another question that says, what made you become a mentalist and what age you knew you wanted to be a mentalist? Okay, so I'll merge the two questions, Abhay. As I was, I already said, I wanted to be, as a 5-year-old, I wanted to be Mandrake the Magician. I don't know if you have ever seen Mandrake. I can actually help. Yeah, so this is Mandrake, right? This is Mandrake the Magician. These are actually the first few drawings of Mandrake ever, which have been collected into a book. Now, Mandrake is this magician who sort of walks the streets and he can just gesture hypnotically and everybody sees what he wants them to see. And what was different between Mandrake and every other character out there was that he was a crime-fighting magician. Yeah. So he was the first superhero because he had telepathic powers, he had hypnotic powers. These were not shown as tricks. He was the real deal. Now, I wanted to be Mandrake, but as a 5-year-old, up to age 15, when I first got on stage, what is the kind of magic I looked at? I looked at these kind of magic, right? I looked at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards, throw 3, throw any number, and until show 6. That kind of magic fascinated me. Ropes and a lot of other kind of magic, that kind of conjuring magic as they call it. But one of the things with my magic was always that it was interactive. I loved talking to my audiences and I loved talking with my audiences in anything that I was doing. There was a lot of storytelling already. By the time I got end of college and I did my master's, this whole group of friends who used to help me with my stage show, we used to do everything from cutting a girl in half and joining her back and things like that. They all went their separate ways, right? They're all still in my life. They're wonderful friends. But way back, I was in Udupi. They all moved to Bangalore and they all got on to different jobs. I went on for my master's. And so when I came to Bangalore after that in 2000, I was like, okay, I don't have anything. And I started again with ropes and cards, but that felt too trickish, very, very trick. And while it was for adults, also it was thin somehow. Now I can do it a lot better, and it doesn't matter. Around that time, I was reminded of my dream to be Mandrake, and I felt I was going away from this dream of being Mandrake. I had learned hypnosis very young. By age 17 or 18, I had learned hypnosis. So I was already a good hypnotist. And so I looked around and realized there is something called psychological entertainment. This is just around the time Darren Brown was becoming famous. And I came in contact with some of the biggest names in the field around that time. And I said, this is interesting and it's just fledging in that sense. And so let me try this. And so the last 15 years has been the journey in trying to be, I like to call myself the mind reader, not a mentalist. But I believe in real life I am, because I use a lot of these skills that I use on stage. While I call myself the mind reader on stage, because that's all I do on stage, I read people's minds. Off stage in life, I am the mentalist because I am observing people. I'm seeing what they're doing. If I'm in a, it's been a while since I was, almost 3 months now since we went into an airport. But no, my most favorite pastime in an airport or bookshop is to just look at people and see what are they talking to each other, what is going on in their mind. There is an animated conversation. Try to pick their thoughts. And yes, that fascinates me. But what's the real difference between a mentalist and a magician? A mentalist is also a magician. A magician is somebody who professes to do magic, real magic. The mentalists mostly are in this gray area of calling themselves either real or mostly not the trick side. Magicians are mostly those that come into, say, a birthday party and something. That's how we see it. But to be frank, it's all the same. It's all magical entertainment. And there are people out there who say they are real. There are people who say they are fake. As far as you are entertained, I don't think it matters how I did it.
Thank you so much for that answer. Thank you so much, Mr. Shenoy, for that very entertaining session. It was a pleasure having you